Ms. Sungjoo Kim, it's my pleasure to have you here at Oxford.
My pleasure too.
Welcome to Oxford. You're now Chief Executive of your own company, Sungjoo Group, and you're also in charge of a global luxury brand, MCM. How and where did this begin? How difficult was it to get to this point? And I'm just curious, did you encounter any challenges or face even discrimination as a female entrepreneur in male-dominated Asian society?
Well, it's obvious, Korea is notorious, like Japan, underutilized women's capacity, even though we have a problem, most capable and pleasant women around the world and beautiful at the same time.
Yeah.
But the thing is, because Korea and Japan both heavily influenced by Confucian tradition, and also on top of that, probably Japan has more even samurais. So it's a very male chauvinistic society, not only in politics, even in business work. So when I started my own business, obviously I come from a big family, but did not inherit my parents' any inheritance because I was a girl. Only expect to get married into the big family, but I refused. That's why I had to start from scratch. And I'm glad I did eventually. And obviously when I entered business world, most of the deals done through heavy drinking parties and big boys club network, nothing else. At the same time, I had my own baby, so it means a triple actually handicap because not only being women, having baby, at the same time I was fighting against corruption. That's another thing, because when you see very, very fast move economies, they tend to really get engaged in an easy way to make big money. I guess rampant in China, in Russia, even Korea was. And so I stood up over this. So of course it was difficult, but instead of crying over what the cultural odds I was facing, I was smarter. First of all, try to be, how can I say, being a women's way dealing with their business. What is it? I mean, just maximize women's strengths. And second, also avoid this corruption. Like we adapt more IT and to be more accurate and more fast and more reactive toward the market changes. And eventually we won the game. So turn out to all these handicaps, being a female entrepreneur, being in very, very chauvinistic society, eventually became our strengths.
Okay. And also, I know that pretty much all the luxury brands at the moment are European or American, and they're run by Western businessmen. Now you're running a luxury company as an Asian woman, and what do you think you can offer that these traditional Western luxury companies can't?
Well, first of all, I think the women are the end customers and the user. It means that we know better than men what we want. I think that's an advantage. Another thing is being as an Asian woman, that's another story, because Asia never been the center of fashion. We are just only the market of the luxury fashion. But now, because the market shift from west to east, because now we see only growing market in the world is really Asia at the moment. Therefore, the taste level changed. It means that I think I know better than many others what Asian women want. And also, even logistic-wise, we are very near to the major market. And all these advantages, I think we become the winning formula. And also, strange enough, all these luxury top brands run by, of course, Western companies, but recently, quite few big companies from India, Mittal bought and Escada, which is a German brand, and also I think even Sander bought by a Japanese company, even Harvey Nicks, a well-known British department store, bought by Dixon Coon, even Burberry, another well-known British leather good company, bought by Singaporean firm. I think, but the difference what they do and what I do is they own, but they don't run by themselves. But this is first case, not only as Korean company bought the German luxury or European luxury, but also actually run by Asian company by themselves and by women. Is the first time in history.
And also, I'm not an expert in fashion, but I was looking at the top management of different luxury companies, and it all tended to be even males.
Of course.
In an industry that we expect to be dominated by females. And what do you think the reason is? Like the females didn't do well in fashion?
Actually, that's a very good question, because often people think luxury is glamour, and when you see the catwalk, it's beautiful mannequins, model, walking down the catwalk, except like a fantasy land. It's not. It's a lot of boot camp kind of work behind, which means that from the raw material development is engineering and high tech. A lot R&D required, and even making all the products is a really very delicate and very complicated procedure. A lot of engineering involved in it, and also good sourcing and logistics behind. And also even distributing the product, even fashion goods, requires so much detail and so much sophisticated also way of operating it. And dealing with the consumer one by one is even more so. Therefore, actually, when you look at the fashion business, on surface looks very simple and beautiful. Behind is really have a lot of work involved. So that's why it was not easy for women to carry such a heavy burden, which I've been experiencing last 20 years. But the advantage again is that women possess. First of all, we have a very intuitive power to realize consumers' needs as women. And second, also, we are very reactive toward the market changes. And third is also, I think we are multitasking. And all these advantage of women would possess, I think could eventually winning the formula became why, especially in 21st century out of an internet revolution. Now, distribution is not only through the offline, very much conventional way of distributing products and brands, but now luckily, you call it virtual reality, virtual market, e-commerce and commerce. Now it's more content-driven instead of just opening 100 stores around the world. It means that when we become in virtual reality, that women possess again very strong forte in a sense that without seeing the consumer, I think you realize what they want, intuitive power way, emotional conscience, how to say. That's why I don't say it's easier, but this has definitely become advantage for women to run such a business.
Well, you are a role model for many young women in Korea, in Asia, and now all across the world. You're actually famous in Korea for being very outspoken about encouraging women to pursue their own dreams. You once said, I'm going to quote you, Korean women should stop complaining about men and male-dominated society, but they should make themselves stronger and participate actively in economic activities. Is there any advice you would like to give to young women and other female entrepreneurs who would like to be the next Kim Sungjoo?
Okay, I think even instead of complaining, do go for it, but I go one step further. Even I urge Korean women to participate in military service.
Okay.
Because Korea is still divided north and south, and why should we give only young men in their prime time devote 2.5 years doing the military service? Why don't you share the burden together? It's not just only sharing burden. One thing I realized that for a young man, let them just run only for 1 year service. And also, many of those are unemployed men. They could be professional in a military service, which will give them job to run for that. Meanwhile, women, I think, will learn discipline and leadership. The thing is that when you go into a big corporation, now I have 1,100 employees from 15 nationalities, and we run more than 100 now, becoming 30 stores in more than 30 countries now.
Yes.
That's our direct own store. And also beside it, we have more than 200 extra stores in many different channels through Harrods and the South Fifth Avenue, have that kind of really luxury department stores. It's really big responsibility and very stressful job we go through every day. And I think when we get into real work, there's no men and women. It means it's just somebody who possesses not a leadership skill set or some knowledge to run, but also tenacious kind of ability how to bear and deal with all these challenges, strategies every day they face. And sometimes women are very good, but the other way, they tend to give up very easily when they face the marginal situation, because also they have some domestic probably demands, child rearing, some other stresses they add up. Maybe that's the reason. So therefore, I would really advise that women should know how to discipline their physical, mental being to really take on that kind of responsibility in a very, very tough competitive environment we are facing. So So if I just had the leader advice, first of all, 21st century is definitely era of the women. Why?
Yes.
Because in knowledge-based economy, there's no men and women in front of the computer. They only appreciate right, correct input and very analytical mindsetting, and also get intuitive power to recognize all these multicultural, multi-dimensional kind of aspects. Women possess that. And the second, meanwhile, when it comes into real business, real work, really there's, as I mentioned, just such enormous pressure exists, which is normal. Therefore, if they would really want to take on that kind of leadership, I think they should know how to run themselves first, witness the spirit.
And go to military service.
and go for others. Okay, sure.
You actually co-chaired the campaign that elected the current Korean president, Geun Hye. And she's now the first female Korean president. What was your experience like in the recent Korean presidential election?
First of all, it was really out of surprise, out of blue, because first of all, my father always asked him never go near politics. Even though he was a big tycoon, he knew politics is not necessarily always a clean and pleasant place. I agree with him. Second, my nature doesn't go for politics either. Therefore, even I didn't expect to help her. Why I helped her then? Last September, end of last September, I was flying back from Bangkok to Seoul in early morning flight. I was reading two newspaper articles really moved my mind. One was actually from Korean newspaper, I believe so, it was John Seung Yoon Lee. The critics, they say, current Korean peninsula standing surrounded with all these big superpowers, Russia, China, Japan, and America, it's like being a very explosive location. Which is so true, already proved last few weeks how North Korea needs to fight all these. I think it is. So it's a last remaining Cold War era place, and unless somebody do correct job next 3-5 years, it will be not only determine the future course of a Korean peninsula destiny, but it will determine whole this world, right? Another article was, I believe it was an article from Financial Times at the same day, saying very similar thing like that. They say the current Northeast Asia's situation is very much like the situation just before the World War II. That sort of struck my heart so much because I read the article long time before by some well-known international, probably political scientist, written article. I think it was also another probably newspaper abroad, and saying, if a Third World War starts, it must be around Korean Peninsula. Very scary scenario. So if Third World War starts, it means that it's a nuclear war. That is end of humankind. It shouldn't happen. So many people looking at Korean Peninsula as an internal conflict. It's not. It was done by two superpowers, that time primarily Soviet Union and America. After World War II, instead condemning like Germany divided half pieces, right? East and West. The same thing they should have done in Japan. Instead, they did on Korean Peninsula. That's how we've been divided. So it's not our war, it's their war. So we've been fighting for somebody else's interest, which is so ridiculous. I know because it's a geopolitical reason. But how we are going to overcome that? So that moment, I felt like I need to support somebody who can at least secure South Korean ground in the right place, which is as a democratic capitalist society, because Park Geun-hye, the current president who just elected, when she was a candidate, he was competing with two other opposition guys. They were very pro-left-wing or pro-North Korea, which was so wrong that moment. So I felt like I need to risk the country more than I need to support her because of my political reason at all. I have no political interest. Therefore, after the 3.5 months of the election over, next day, after we made a great victory, and I put myself out of politics and back to as business person, as happy I am. But one thing I want to mention, and also another remarkable thing is happened to be the first female president. Not because she was a female I support, because of national identity as a democratic capitalist society. I need to secure to respect the country. Second, it happened to be the female, which is great to see that. Why? Because as I said, the half of the population is so much dismissed or undermined or underutilized. Now we are facing not only glass ceiling because of the all this discrimination against women, but we had a concrete ceiling, which is because Confucius very chauvinistic, male chauvinistic big boys club exists in Korea, but having the top level present to be the first female, which we could break the last city and at the same time conquer city at once, which is great.
Actually, one more question about politics, because I know you've been a very strong campaigner against corruption. Which sphere do you think is more corrupt, business or politics in Korea?
I would say different ways.
Different ways.
Yeah, I think it's politics. I think it's because so many individuals and corporations and the party interest involved. So it's just more just corruption. It's just a manipulation, I would say.
Okay.
That's a different kind of corruption. But I think the business is more monetary.
Monetary, yeah.
Yeah. They are doing kickbacks and bribing because of they have to cheat the tax, because most of the system is working. So they think this is like a lubricant, lubricant. You have this oil, so you can everything made it smooth out, make a quick deal like money. But I felt, not because I'm anything morally better than others, I think this motherhood should all the women possess. I feel our future ground should be standing something more just, fairer, and fairer base for our future generation's sake. Yes. Somebody got to stand up. So since coming from good family, good education background, and also good Christian to be, and somebody got to do it. So I did. But did I get defeated? No, we won because we had to work 10 times harder, and we had to be 10 times smarter. That's why maybe I'm globally successful.
Also, you're not only very successful, but also very generous. You have been donating about 10% of your income, and you've done a lot for North Korea as well. So can you tell us your philanthropy and also comment on the current situation in North Korea, especially?
My aim of doing business, I'm very mission-driven, not money-driven. That's why I've been fighting through all these odds. And so far, with God's grace and blessings, probably, I've been winning with that, and also very fortunate to have an amazing team and people around me to support me, help me for that. And this charity end is very much kind from my mother, because she was a big tycoon's wife, but all her life she really devoted her time and energy and resources to really help many women and orphans around them to really live up for their lives. And that's what I brought up together. So for me, like 10% net income given back to society is just normal. So I think we've been doing a lot of different charities, but one is actually primarily one is really supporting women's leadership program. Yeah. So practically we just say global women's leadership program. Why only women? Not because of women, but I thought this half the population need to be utilized, so it's very global skill set, not taking over man's job, but they have to really create new blue ocean, so they say global. And another end is more dealing with North Korea, as I mentioned. I'm not necessarily supporting the regime, but I'm really have such a compassion heart. Those complete victims, which are 23 million people living out there, have no idea what's going on outside the world, and meanwhile they're completely brainwashed. And so there's the people we have to look after, especially women and children will be the victim for that. So 3 ways we've been helping North Korea. One is medical mission. Yeah. So we've been sending vaccines for the tuberculosis patients in North Korea. These is through the IVI, International Vaccine Institute, but before it was through the Eugene Bell Foundation, because they are really reaching out directly to those hospitals and those treatment centers for IV, the TB, the tuberculosis patients directly. We believe more than 1.5 million people in North Korea active TB patients, and another 1.5 million are kind of potential, which is almost 3 million are infected out of 23. It's major malaria there. We have to correct that. And second is also the food aids. I think since I becoming a global trustee of the World Vision, one of the second largest the NGOs around the world, we are really direct target for young children, because I heard in North Korea there's like generations missing, because first of all, women cannot bear deliver children because out of malnutrition and no sanitary support for that. And secondly, even children born but they are dying at such a young age. And third is because of lack of food, children are not growing. I remember when I was in Pyongyang the other day, I saw actually some military people, but looks like a junior high school kid. I thought, why junior high school kid wearing military uniform? In fact, they are full-grown people. Scary. So we already built several food factories, mainly target for high nutrition food for children. So that's another thing. And third thing we've been doing is educational aid. In fact, you probably heard that Pyongyang University of Science Technology University, I was involved. And because I'm trustee of PUST, which is, or not PUST, the UST, which is Yanbian University of Science Technology in Manchuria in China. And because my church supporting them, so we made actually Pyongyang Science Technology University out of this Manchuria Science Technology University. And I think the idea is not giving them any sensitive technology at all, but I think we can really be direct individual contact with the top brain, top mind people there, prepare the future peaceful education if we train them. And also, not just necessarily for science advancement, but through engage with them, probably they will be eventually our ally when we come together as one country.
Thank you so much for being with us. Voices from Oxford, University of Oxford.